Hello YouTube, I'm Vince White. I am an employment attorney, and on this channel we answer publicly posted questions from YouTube users, getting folks the answers they need from an employment attorney. I must remember to tell you to like, subscribe, comment down below. It helps me to help more people just like you, and I have to remember to tell you that everybody works, but not everybody wins. Okay, we have a question from YouTube user A, just the letter A, which seems very impressive to me because I feel like to get the YouTube username A, you must have signed up for the site very, very early on. And that is impressive. And YouTube user A's question is as follows. Is it true that cases that have mental disabilities are harder to prove and therefore worth less than physical disabilities? This is literally what an employment attorney told me. Thanks for these videos. Okay. The answer is no, but with a caveat. With notes. Notes that are going to make you angry, potentially. So the process to prove a mental health diagnosis in 2023 is not a mystifying thing. I would think that most dedicated employment attorneys very much know how to go about providing evidence and proving a mental health disability to a judge, a jury, a finder of fact, an arbitrator, whoever it might be. So the disability itself, the diagnosis, is something you can prove. And then the second part of that equation, to show the discrimination, is you have to prove that there was negative workplace consequence tied to that diagnosis. And I actually think that in terms of demonstrating that, humans are predisposed to believe that is true. I think that humanity all kind of agrees that people react really poorly to mental health issues. There is a tremendous amount of negative feeling and prejudice towards people dealing with mental health issues. I don't even know if there's necessarily somebody who would disagree with me, right? And it's very different, right? Like the feelings that people often have towards someone in a wheelchair are positive, right? Like it's rare for someone to see someone in a wheelchair and say, I hate that guy. I don't think that happens very often. Now, let's give a hypothetical here. I'm going to use the bipolar condition because it runs in my family. If someone's dealing with a bipolar condition and they're in the workplace and their coworkers find out they have a bipolar condition, all of a sudden, every time the person with the bipolar condition disagrees with a coworker, this is because you're bipolar. You're cycling. You're a crazy person. You act like such a lunatic. Like, it's just so aggressive. It's so negative. It's so unpleasant, right? This kind of prejudice was tied to how men would degrade women for millennia, right? Men would go around every time a woman, I apologize, every time a woman didn't want to do what a man said. That crazy bitch. That's what they would say. It continues today, right? It's the tying of not doing what I want to something I view as like horrible, which will make other people view that person poorly, right? And inherent in that, in the fact that they choose to degrade women with mental health, what you can see is that they view the mental health as a particularly damaging thing, right? That's very telling. What they're picking up on, besides their own hate for women, is a prejudice in our society and perhaps all of humanity towards mental health issues. So I think it's very easy to prove, once you have a diagnosis and a negative workplace consequence, that the diagnosis might have been a motivating factor for the negative workplace consequence. It can, I think, be easier to prove a workplace discrimination tied to a mental health disability claim. Now, there's a second part to this, though, and this is where you might get angry. As part of that prejudice, I believe that many judges, many juries, many arbitrators are also predisposed to think negatively of those dealing with a mental health disability. So when you ask about valuation, my concern is not proving the discrimination. My concern is how will the judge, the jury, the finder of fact, the arbitrator, whoever it is, view my client? Will they view my client through a lens of prejudice? Or will this case be presented in a way? Will we fashion our client's persona? Will we control the narrative in such a way to engender sympathy and love and a desire to make my client whole? And it's more difficult to do that with a mental health disability in play because of the prejudice of humanity against mental health conditions. So when an employment attorney tells you, and I don't know what this attorney was talking about, I wasn't part of that conversation, but if you're just talking like real quick shorthand, and you're like, what's an easier case or a more valuable case, and your question is like, I'll pick two disabilities at random: wheelchair, person's in a wheelchair, so physical disability, and the other client is dealing with a schizophrenia condition. Which of those cases is easier to turn into money and potentially worth more money? All things being equal, which is reductive and incredibly oversimplified. And every case is different. There is no situation where everything's equal, right? Can't be. Fundamentally can't be true. But let's just assume the cases are of exact equal strength. We just have two different disabilities, one physical, one mental. The physical case may be simpler to win and may be, with the exact same level of effort, worth more because it is in fact simpler and easier. And finders of fact, judges, juries, arbitrators are going to be less prejudiced against the client. And when I'm saying prejudice here, it's not like an open, like they're not out there having rallies being like, we hate mentally disabled people. It's what lives in their hearts. Like they may not know that they recoil from a person dealing with a schizophrenia condition. They may not know that. They might. You ask them, they'd pass a lie detector test. I don't have any problem with people dealing with mental health disabilities. I think they're great. What are you talking about? And they'd pass the lie detector test. But in my experience, in my belief, humanity is generally negatively predisposed to people with mental health disabilities and will view them with some level of distrust and some level of negativity without even realizing it. So the burden on the attorney, the burden on plaintiff's counsel is greater. You must do more. You must build up your client. You must control that narrative. You must win the fights. You must make it so that people look at your client and say, I want to help that person, in spite of their own prejudice. It can be done. Don't get me wrong. It's not an insurmountable thing. I think that that's what attorneys do, and that's how attorneys earn their money. But when this attorney said to you that the case might be more valuable, it's possible that that's what that attorney meant. Prejudice is real. I mean, there's no question. That's why we're on this channel, right? If we didn't believe in discrimination, if we didn't believe in prejudice, well, then I probably wouldn't be running this channel. I would be off doing something else. I feel like I'd probably be skiing somewhere. But that being said, I mean, just because we believe that prejudice exists in the employment context doesn't mean that we don't also believe it exists in the human beings who decide these cases. And we need to be mindful of that. And we need to get out ahead of that problem and fix it. So, does a physical disability need to be worth more as a case, as a workplace discrimination case than a mental disability? No, it doesn't. But it's possible that the physical disability may be a simpler case and may require less work from the attorney. That's possible. I hope this helps. I hope that I have not enraged you too much by imparting my own judgments and beliefs about judges, juries, and arbitrators. Dealing with the reality of the situation, it does not serve you, to my mind, for me to sugarcoat things. Be like, no, all humans are cool, and there's no hate. Once somebody becomes a judge, they're perfect. Probably not how that works. Probably not, right? So I try to be frank with you. you know? Um, I'll check the comments down below. If you're frustrated with me for what I shared here, if you have further questions, I will try to address that in additional videos. Sincerely, and I'm not like, you can come at me. It's cool. Like, I get it. Come out swinging if you want, but these concerns that I list here are things that individuals should be aware of, and attorneys should be planning on how to surmount, to my mind. Good luck. Oh, like, subscribe, and comment down below.